Hello, my name is Alexei, and today I'd like to read to you Body, the Mind's Spaceship. It's the third book in the second anthology, and the order of that goes The Physics of Love, Synchronicity, Mind, the Shifter and Reorganizer of Nodes. This one is called Body, the Mind's Spaceship. Then Spirit, the Vortex of Creation, and then a book on philosophy called Distraction. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And here we go. Body, the Mind Spaceship. We are a creation of all three, mind, body, and spirit. In mind, the shifter and reorganizer of nodes, we discuss how projections of mind of all realms cause the pacing actions of our bodies. This includes physical particles as well as waves of sound and light that exist within our dimension. Body, the mind's spaceship, discusses the physical realm in relationship to the greater vortex of time. It is all spirit, and all spirits have a relative body. We see that our bodies are the crunching and stretching of the Loosh, all relative to your current position. As we shrink down, so do the relative flows of the fluid. Body will only and always be body to you and to any being that embodies the same relative frame of motion. This includes the gravitational accelerations and velocities you're currently undergoing. Those qualities determine your dimension of experience. It is a relative scenario, and here is where the etheric or quantum realms and physical reality become one. It is through the scaled wave nature of the now that we see all bodies are relative in their existence and that all bodies exist simultaneously in the greater now. Body is more than the human body, as it includes physical objects that you identify with and connect to. This could include your car, your home, money, and societal structures. We, the human race of planet Earth, all share the same body. Although our individual identities and duties fractal inward, which create the feeling of individuality and also that of separation, we all share the same body, as in dimension or flow of spacetime. Our collective body reaches to the edge of the smooth cosmic microwave background and to the edges of black holes at every galactic center. It is the limits of our physical experience and electromagnetic relationships. In short, our body is our dimension. Body then consciousness, or vice versa? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The same question could be asked for a conscious experience within time. Which came first, the conscious field or the body? I would argue the conscious fields. Let me ask you this. Which came first, matter, sound, and light, or the human body? Science suggests that evolution began with simple amino acids coming together to create simple single-celled organisms. These are all byproducts of the flows of space that already exist within time before the evolved body was ever conceived. From this, it seems obvious that first came the conscious fields, and then beings of many types have sprung from that. Each being is tuned to various bits of the greater body. The tunings of various beings give us great insight into the nature, into the reality of the primal conscious field, as evolutionary senses are all secondary byproducts to the already existing flows of space-time within the Loosh. The senses. From our bodies, we become aware of the fields of influence that may be experienced by others. We know of light because we have evolved to detect light. The same is true with sound. From our naturally evolved tools that have eyes and ears, we presume other beings with eyes and ears are undergoing an experience of some sort that relates to those vibrations. That is the limitation of science, as it primarily focuses on aspects of creation which we have evolved to detect. Why is it that we ignore the conscious harmonics of delta through fast gamma? Wouldn't these tunings also give us a greater insight into reality? In relationship to electromagnetism, we understand that by examining our eyes and experience, we are limited to the visible spectrum. We define the spectrum as visible. In relationship to acoustic waves, we make the same judgments. Humans have an auditory spectrum. We understand the spectrum of surface roughness by categorizing something as smooth or rough. We understand the hardness spectrum by saying that some objects are hard while some are soft. All of these characteristics exist within many spectrum, all a secondary aspect of the conscious fields that existed before we began to evolve. Time atom shows us the conscious spectrum in relationship to the fifth dimensional vortex of creation. We see that the perceivable conscious fields of human perception are similar to those of acoustic and electromagnetic, as in, we can only see or interact with a tiny sliver of information when considering all those that exist from infinitely small to infinitely large. Our human experience of awakened perception exists within delta to fast gamma. This is 6 harmonics of experience. Of those 6 harmonics, 3 of them are tuned to the physical realm. Delta and theta waves are tuned to the pre-manifest realms of the lower verse, and fast gamma may be tuned to the denser realms of the noviverse. These tunings do not apply to our waking state of reality and may be byproducts of the etheric or quantum realms of subspace, just like all aspects of sensory evolution. However, they are still tuned to orbits of creation. We only perceive the body of our dimension when in an alpha, beta, or slow gamma state of brain harmony or conscious awareness. Sound. The frequencies of sound a being may experience is directly related to the vocal cords of that being, its ear size and shape, and its environment. The human body is roughly tuned to frequencies of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Vibrations lower than 20 Hz are known as infrasounds, and vibrations greater than 20,000 Hz are known as ultrasounds. It is a simple categorization of acoustic waves that have been defined by humans through science. Sound waves are longitudinal, which means there is a compression and expansion of a fluid in the direction of travel as it propagates through body. With sound waves, there is an actual compression and expansion of the matter that creates the vibration, or rather allows the vibration to permeate. It is somewhat the difference between a compressed state and an expanded state of the raw fluid of experience. It may be the difference between the past and the future states, as the strength and frequency may depend upon the position within the crystal of time. We will return to this. Light. The frequencies of light a being is tuned to highly relate to the type of star that the planet orbits. For example, our solar system stems from a yellow star, the sun, and therefore yellow becomes the center of our vision. The visible spectrum is then defined existing from blue at 400 nanometers to red at 700 nanometers, while being centered around yellow, 550 nanometers. Beings that evolved around a blue star would most likely be tuned to blue light, and beings that evolved around a red star would be tuned to red light. The color of the star is determined by the exterior temperature of the star. Some stars or bodies are not even hot enough to glow in the visible spectrum. It may be reasonable to assume that beings that evolved around an infrared body would have their center of electromagnetic awareness around the infrared spectrum. Beings that evolved near an extremely hot body may be tuned to energies greater than blue. Light waves are transverse, which means that the vibration creates a perpendicular force to the direction of motion. This is why it's called the electromagnetic spectrum. With every push is a pull, and with every pull is a push. Light and magnetism move as one in this regard, as they vibrate the etheric or quantum fields like stones being tossed into a pond. Both sound and light are secondary features of the greater orbits within time. Consciousness. Our human perspective is only aware of certain frequencies within the greater orbits of conscious experience. Similar to sound and light, the conscious fields we are tuned to are a result of our position within a greater orbit. From orbiting the Earth, we get the senses of feel, taste, smell, and sound. From orbiting the Sun, we get the sense of vision. From our greatest inertial reference frame arises our perceptions of time and conscious awareness. Again, a secondary in construction to the greater flows of the Loosh. Our conscious harmonics are a direct result of a frequency or wave of some type. All frequencies are created by a pendulating or rotating aspect of mind, body, or spirit. Consciousness is primary, and all other aspects of experience are secondary. The primary conscious field could be considered the greatest vortex of all moments. From there, all other aspects arise. First comes conscious fields, then matter, light, and sound from there. The vortex of consciousness. From the crystal of time, we see that there exist orbits within the Loosh that relate to acceleration towards center at light speed. Each orbital diameter starting from infinitely large fractal inward to be 1/4 the diameter of the wave that is bigger. This fractal pattern continues inward to infinitely dense and shows that our human bodies are tuned to a thin slice of conscious experience. The infinite body of rotation. Earth orbits the sun orbits the galactic center. All those structures orbit the greatest center of all moments. To go another step inward, the primal particles orbit their center, DNA of the body orbits its center, and so on. When you start from infinitely small and increase the orbits to infinitely large, you see that all orbits or flows of space act as habitats, all overlapping and existing simultaneously. They are all tidally locked and synchronized to create a smooth and fluid experience. Postures of mind and body create distortions as the primal energy of spirit flows inward. By extrapolating all orbits of motion to infinity, you see that our physical bodies are a creation of less dense realms and more dense realms, all overlapping to create our waking experience. This orbit of infinity is what gives us a fifth dimension to process. It is the ultimate result of tidally locked fluid orbiting within each other to the greatest orbit of all moments. This gives us the greatest orbits within time and shows that all perceived sound, light, and matter exist within our current inertial reference frame, or dimension of experience. Let's work backwards from the greatest orbits of experience. Let's assume consciousness is primary and see how sound, light, and matter may emerge from a single motion through a single fluid. An orbit within time. Einstein's theory of relativity shows us that the perceived matter and light we experience are a result of our inertial reference frame. From this, we see that we have our dimension of experience. The universe isn't really expanding, but rather our perceptions of a singular fluid are being stretched and crunched based on our position within the crystal of time. Perception of the mind is different than using tools to detect. Tools are created from bits of matter within our dimension, and therefore do not have the ability to demonstrate or interact with other orbits within time. Matter will always be matter within our dimension, and all relative relationships are somewhat fixed in that regard. Conscious fields of awareness are guided by our gyroscopic orbit, while matter is the crunching of the fluid within our perception. The matter is illusionary in that nature. However, within our perception, it clearly has effect. Matter within the vortex. What came first, matter, light, or sound? After conscious fields are formed, it seems that within our perception, matter would exist before light, or perhaps the two arose simultaneously with sounds to follow. The same fluid of experience may be crunched and stretched in several ways. We only perceive the flows of this fluid when they exist within our dimension or of perception. Each glance or show of the matter comes from a singular orbit, while perceptions orbit through the vortex. Why is dark matter approximately 4/5 of the gravitational effects of a galaxy, and matter only that of 1/5? Consider a singular rotation within the fluid. As the fluid orbits through, it would be harmonizing properly with our flow at two distinct parts of an orbit. This would be at the ejection point and also at a reinsertion point of our dimension, which relates directly to the flows of space we perceive. We cannot interact physically with matter or light existing in flows of space that are greater than the speed of light outward and 1 time the speed of light inwards. However, the energy continues to orbit through, creating effects of synchronization, while existing within those less dense and more dense realms. In essence, you could say the effects of dark matter come from the energy of creation existing within the lower verse and noviverse realms. Therefore, you can see how the same fluid of experience may be seen in our future in the form of matter on Earth, and then return to us as light in the shape of distant galaxies. It is always 1/2 past and 1/2 future, both overlapping to create a now moment as our 4D experience of X, Y, Z, and T orbits the center of all time. In the previous image, you could say we are orbiting to the left. As we orbit, the relative motions in relationship to the raw fluid of experience would be stretching and crunching our perceptions into existence. The overlapping of 1/2 past and 1/2 future are in constant vibration as projections of mind synchronize to create our fluid motions. In the future, you would see energy between you and the center of time being crunched, while energy that is further than time would be stretched. In the past, you would see everything reverting back to normal as our perception of the fluid passes through. The same fluid will either be perceived as matter in the future and then light in the past, or as light in the future and then matter in the past, as the energy warps through perceptions, interacting two times in two different ways per conscious snapshot. As we fractal inward to be as infinitely close to the now, you will see it is always an overlapping of one half past and one half future. Matter, light, and sound are a result. Light within the vortex. Was it matter that came first, or was it light? From this model, you can see that they sprung up simultaneously as the conscious field is awakened at the moment the raw energy of creation hits a flow of space-time equal to the speed of light. This is what implies that our entire dimension exists within a relative layer of a black hole. Although the energy of our synchronization continues to orbit outside our perception, it is only perceivable two times per orbit, once as matter and once as light. Matter from below returns as light from above, while light from below returns as matter from above. Sound within the vortex. Matter and light may be seen as moving in the direction of less dense to more dense realms, while sound would be more related to the perceived compression or expansion of any body as we orbit tangentially. The difference in size, again, is related to the overlapping of one half past and one half future. Time dilations exist as we perceive the matter we orbit with. This means that matter in the future is actually in a more compressed state than matter that is in the past. The difference between the two states is a relationship to the tangential velocity and the radiant change of the energy creating it. Less dense objects would be manifesting at less dense realms and would have a faster tangential velocity than that are closer to the center, but slower change in degree about the center. This means that the effect of the Lorentz contraction would be between past and future would be greater. However, considering we are perceiving a manifesting now, the orbital rate is of more importance in this effect. Therefore, denser realms of creation experience more of a difference between angles from 0 to 360 degrees within the orbit and would vibrate sounds accordingly. For example, a 2 Hz orbit has twice the change in angle than a 1 Hz orbit, so the relative size changes appropriately. Sound would then be related to the tangential velocity in combination with the orbital rate of the fluid creating it. It is the difference in relative size created by the perceiving of a singular fluid within time, one half past and one half future. Habitats of body. There can be many perceptions of time within our very own dimension, and these relate to the habitats and life cycles of the various beings. The average human life cycle is approximately 80 years. This is like the blink of an eye when compared to the life cycle of the sun, which is estimated to be about 10 billion years. Now compare the average human life cycle to that of a mayfly, which is a single day. All of these habitats relate directly to the flow of space the being inhabits. Distortions of body. The physics of love, synchronicity, shows us that we may take postures in all three aspects, mind, body, and spirit. Distortions of mind create distortions of body and vice versa. Humans constantly collect objects which become attached during their personal quest for success. This leads to distortions within spirit and the greater vortex of time. This could include items like a home, a vehicle, to simple items like plates and silverware. They also include postures like how one walks and how one does their hair. Each of these objects that we identify as ours or owning somewhat becomes part of the self. For example, it's not okay for someone to use your vehicle without permission because it is yours. It is part of how you identify yourself, and you've claimed mental and physical ownership. It is somewhat delusional, and the concept of ownership alone is a creation of human imagination. However, it is important to respect the delusions of others as societies function on these premises. Weakened by distortion. A distortion could be any posture that we hold that stems from a thought process or environmental situation. This includes cultural expectations as they highly influence the pacing motions of our lives. Material possessions also expand our body to misalign with the incoming flows of creation. Aligning the body. When it comes to health, aligning with the greatest orbits of our experience is to properly align the body for its greatest manifestation. The natural circadian rhythm is key for the process and gives us great insight into the relationship between the physical and conscious realms. Mind, the shifter and reorganizer of nodes, shows us that our conscious modes are controlled by tidally locked fluids within the fifth dimension. These modes of experience are related to the dimensions of the physical and are regular in relationship to our consciousness. Knowing that consciousness is primary, we see that the time scale of the physical day is secondary to the orbits of conscious experience. Aligning the body to the conscious fields is key. Do we align our body to conscious fields, or do we align consciousness to our body? Which is primary and which is secondary? Both options are possible and both achievable. There is a rather large difference between the two. Aligning consciousness to body. Aligning consciousness to body is to fully control your experience within our dimension and to disregard the natural flows of creation. It is to cause a misalignment with the densities of beings of less dense realms while creating a unique habitat that is unable to harmonize with other denser realms of natural creation. It is to create a unique realm of denser and denser creations while pulling the motions of less dense realms from center. This tends to lead to more of a service to self or selfish existence. When it comes to connecting to beings of various densities, you would most likely be connecting to denser realms of your own creation as you become disconnected from the greater orbits within time. This leads to disconnecting from the greater flows of reality and causes you to become stuck within the current realm. Aligning body to consciousness. Aligning your body to consciousness will connect you to the greatest orbits of experience. You'll be properly connected to the natural flows of creation as the energy drifts inwards through dream state, into wake state, and into denser realms. It will allow you to gather information from all realms of experience and allows the denser realms of your manifestation to harmonize with the natural flows as well. The easiest way to connect with the greatest flows of experience is to connect with the rising and setting of the sun. This will help your body align with the natural circadian rhythm of the conscious fields within time. This would be aligning with our daily orbit. We see through our gyroscopic precession that there exists another alignment related to the orbit around the sun. This alignment occurs roughly every 185 days and may be related to the 4 seasons of the year. The next alignment of consciousness to body relates to the 2000-year precessional cycle, which relates to the exiting of the age of Pisces and the coming of the age of Aquarius. There are also inner alignments relating to 1 hour and also 1 second. Conscious anchors. Each item we identify as ours act like anchors when it comes to the potentiality of conscious projections. All vehicles get you from A to B physically, and so what is the difference? Well, there are obvious differences when it comes to speed, style, comfort, and etc. However, some aspects are arbitrary. Why does the color of your vehicle even matter? Speed through reality. Humans on average take a picture of reality 60 times in a second. This means our limitation of conscious perception is determined by the conscious snapshot and our emotions. For example, if you walk down the road, you will have taken more conscious snapshots of the road versus when you drive down it. Did the earliest humans have vehicles, or did they walk or run? At what point did we start using secondary means for transportation? The first vehicles may have been a horse or other animal. Each upgrade in speed causes more and more disconnection from the natural flows of space and more separation with each other. Let's do a quick example. Let's say the road is 1 mile long. Driving at 60 miles an hour, you would have driven the entire length of the road in 60 seconds. Saying we take a snapshot 60 times per second, you could say that we have taken 3,600 conscious snapshots during that 1 mile journey. Now for the next example, let's say we walk on average at 5 miles per hour. This means it would take 12 minutes to walk the mile. You could then say that 12 minutes translates into 720 seconds. Multiply that by 60 conscious snapshots, and you get 43,200 conscious snapshots total for the same length of road. It isn't natural for the human body to move faster than its fastest sprinting speed. Let's do a quick airplane example. Imagine you are now on a plane that goes about 500 miles per hour. It would only take 7.2 seconds to traverse the distance of 1 mile. This translates into 432 conscious snapshots for the same distance. At what point do we suffer jet lag? How does that relate to the velocity of travel and the circadian rhythm? Modifying with spirit. Your ability to synchronize with the natural incoming energy of creation has everything to do with the natural nodes of manifestation. Aligning with the natural currents and motions is key for influencing less dense and more dense realms. Moving at such high speeds causes a lack in synchronization with the natural drifting of energy as it spirals through and continues inward. The realms of creation must realign themselves in order for you to fully manifest in your new location. Perhaps this is the source of jet lag. It is a disconnection with the natural flow of creation, and it takes time to reconnect properly to the rising and setting of the sun within your new location. The many flows of the Loosh. Each inertial reference frame could be considered its own flow of experience or of creation. In order to properly connect with another, you must exist on the same plane of existence to some degree. At an extreme, a person on an airplane cannot properly communicate with someone on another plane if they are flying past each other at 500 miles per hour. It is only through the use of secondary tools that we may do so. For example, we must communicate with a phone or radio in order to connect. Each vessel may be considered its own dimension or flow of spacetime within the greater orbits of time. The same is true for cars driving opposite directions on the highway. It may also be true for two people sprinting past each other. Try to have a conversation with someone that is sprinting past you while you are sprinting in the opposite direction. It will most likely not work out so great. The many vehicles of body. This is where society is today. How many people actually communicate with others while on the road? How many people have their windows closed, AC turned on, while playing their own music from their radio? Most people, and I would argue 99% of them, are completely oblivious of what is going on in the cars in front, behind, or next to them. Try to visualize the difference in connectivity you would feel if instead of transporting with cars, people would walk. Imagine how many more people you would naturally meet in your day. Imagine the great sense of connectivity you would have. You would catch glimpses of smiles and be able to pass them along. You would have a sense of community, which in turn translates into a sense of confidence. It wouldn't be every car for themselves. The road rage mentality of society would be gone. What is this road rage mentality? Where does it stem from, and what may be the source of discomfort? Individual delusions overlap. From the moment you start walking to your vehicle, you have purpose. In other words, from the moment you start walking to your vehicle, you have projected an experience which needs to be accomplished. It is a projected spiral of delusion and control that is independent of everyone except those included within the crystal of conscious co-creation. Those individuals would include the people you're intending on spending time with, or more accurately, spiraling the fluid into a shared experience separate of the greater flows. It is a disconnection from reality and a jump into a personal delusion. Laminar flows of space. The one flow we all share is our natural rotation about the center of the sun and earth. This is why the natural circadian rhythm has so much importance. It connects your body to the greatest flows of our 4D spacetime of X, Y, Z, and T, and allows you to synchronize with all beings from trees to the deer in the woods. What goes to dreamland? When we dream, our physical reality stays behind and the mind jumps into the theta and delta fields. Holding attachments when entering into dreamland will cause you to misalign with the natural conscious fields of creation. As discussed in Mind, the shifter and reorganizer of nodes, this will cause your conscious mind to shut off as the subconscious mind or universal mind takes over and guides you back to the laminar flow. In essence, holding material postures will prevent dreams from becoming lucid. The many bodies of you. All spirits have a relative body. Where do you begin and where do you end? The fifth dimension shows us that the energy of our creation extends from the edge of the lower verse and spirals inward into wake state and then into denser realms of the nodeverse. You have relative bodies in each of these dimensions. They exist in the now, and information may be transferred from one to another. An easy way to see it is to consider lucid dreams. If your dreams are lucid, then you are passing information from the lower verse into your waking day. Connecting to the greatest flows of creation is key for this effect. The magnetic bodies. Every body, meaning every bit or collection of matter, has magnetic fields that form a toroid shape within our perception of the now. This may be a result of matter being crunched and light being stretched into existence as we orbit the center of all moments. It would appear as thin filaments connecting you to the energy of your creation, stemming from your electromagnetic center and then stretching to the edge of the universe and curling back to you as past and future overlap to create the now. These fields exist at many scales, from infinitely small to infinitely large. At the smallest scales, our DNA has a field, and so does each individual cell. One scale up, and the human body's overall magnetic field is the summation of all cells and systems of the body. Each system is focused into its current position, and each system extends to the edge of our perception. The Earth also has a magnetic field, which is visually the most apparent field to witness it within our natural flows of space. Solar radiation follows the lines of magnetism as it reaches the Earth. It is then focused by the natural fields of Earth towards the poles. The interaction or interference between Earth's magnetic field and the solar radiation cause the aurora borealis, which may be seen near the poles. The filaments of magnetic energy surrounding the Earth become apparent. The same is true for the Sun. It too has an overall magnetic field, which may resemble that of the Earth and the human body. The galactic center also has a magnetic field, and so does the next body of rotation. All overlap and all add and subtract like pebbles undulating the fluid of our spacetime. Which direction does the magnetic field go once beyond our physical interpretations? Consider dark matter's 4/5 of the raw energy of creation orbiting beyond our dimension. It extends from the outer reaches of the lower verse and spirals inward into the noviverse, and is only physical when within our dimension or alpha, beta, and slow gamma states of perception. This means that our magnetic fields are extending beyond the physical realm in both directions and interacting with every other magnetic field during the process. Half your field goes into less dense realms, and half your field goes into denser realms. The light and magnetism that extend into the less dense realms would be interacting with all the stars that we see when we look out. It would pass through the moon, as it may be considered a less dense version of Earth from our position within the crystal. From there, our field continues outward into distant galaxies and past the smooth cosmic microwave background. Your influence also extends into the denser realms of the noviverse that exist beyond our perception. Let's now trace that flow of energy. It starts from your center and drifts towards greater densities. This would imply that it extends towards the center of the Earth. From there, it would follow the natural field lines and reach towards the Sun. After reaching the Sun's core, it extends to the center of our Milky Way galaxy. From there, it continues inward to the center of time. It is all in the now, and we experience a tiny sliver of information within our normal day experience of X, Y, Z, and T. This again highlights the importance of the circadian rhythm in relationship to connecting to the lower verse and noviverse. Magnetic fields are a secondary byproduct of the natural flows of the natural orbits within time and emerge physically as perceptions are stretched and crunched. The sun. We are connected to the sun through light and through magnetism. Light travels in straight lines from the sun to the earth, while magnetism follows curvatures of naturally manifestation, appearing as filaments of sorts. It may be related to another orbit within time, around a greater center, and seems closer to center than the source of light, which is our sun. From this, it seems obvious that activity on the sun and activity on the moon may affect our personal magnetic fields and states of perception. Synchronizing light. One way to think about the aurora borealis is to think of it as light that is created by the interaction of solar radiation attempting to harmonize with the natural fields of the Earth. Although not as grand in size, the same effect is true for any body or bit of matter within the solar system. Could a misalignment of your personal body to the natural energy of creation cause a similar effect? I would argue that it may be possible. As energy of your creation drifts inwards to focus your body into position, your personal postures of mind, body, and spirit may be at such a distance from your golden spot to create this effect. Essentially, as the energy spirals inward towards our dimension, an individual may be far from their naturally focused center to create similar effects. Guiding lights of wisdom. This basically means as you drift further and further from center and your body disconnects from the natural flows of creation, you may create sparks and streaks of light in the sky. At the same time, you would be stretching the normally compacted fields to create a region of stretching space. Then, as the energy enters your body, it would be highly distorting once more as it travels inward towards the sun. With every push is a pull, and vice versa. As we stretch the fluid above, it would compact the fluid below, essentially bringing the noviverse and lower verse into perception. Experiencing alternate dimensions. All bodies want to synchronize to create a fluid experience. Maintaining postures of delusion causes our bodies to misalign with the natural flows. Depending on how the body distorts the fluid is whether a less dense realm or a denser realm may be perceived. These types of experiences typically will guide you back to the laminar flow, as it may be like the edges of our spiritual potential. Continuing onward in that direction will cause tight spirals of delusion. It is only when you let go of that push will you realign with the greatest orbits of experience. It is the physics of love. All benevolent spirits ultimately guide you to the laminar flow of your existence through karmic cycles of delusion. On the other hand, malevolent spirit may increase the spiraling nature of your day. As discussed in The Physics of Love, Synchronicity, these beings stem from maintained postures of delusions as time dilations exist between realms. We are all connected, and so a pacing in one will cause a pacing in another. This is why it's important to understand the pacing motions of your life. While undergoing a tight spiral, any and all other beings connected to you will also be affected, which increases the size this being may inhabit. These types of beings mostly relate to tulpa, jinn, and demons from religions, as they are creations of human delusion and increase overall pacing. The easiest way to cleanse yourself of these tight spirals is to connect to the greatest flows of our experience, referring to watching the sun rise and set, and properly tuning your circadian rhythm. Aligning the body in all three, mind, body, and spirit, is key. Tools for aligning body. There are many ways to align the body. The most important aspect is being in tune with the natural flows of space-time. Again, referring to aligning the circadian rhythm to the rising and setting of the sun. Seeing as we are all connected through magnetic fields extending to infinity, we see that the distortions created by individuals may be felt across the planet. They are like pebbles being tossed into a pond that then ripple outward. The pull of an individual may cause the push of another. Simply existing within proximity of one undergoing pacing may cause your energies to misalign. This is where we may create tools to help prevent electromagnetic interference of a location. Geometric structures made of dense materials will reorganize and smoothen the flow of space-time. Perhaps we may take notes from our ancient human friends who built giant pyramids and other megalithic structures which were aligned to the celestial bodies. To think the sun, moon, and stars have zero effect on our manifestation is to not be thinking at all. Physically, we are all one awareness, all connected through light, sound, and magnetism. A breadth of perception. All perceptions of matter, light, magnetism, and sound are secondary to the primal flows of creation. This means that our perception of the now is secondary to the greatest vortex of all moments. From this greatest vortex, relational dimensions of perceived matter and light emerge, as in cycles of galactic formations, like the sun's rotation around the galactic center, the Earth's rotation about the sun, the human body about the center of the Earth, the moon about the Earth, and all relativistic motions are created. Matter and its motions are secondary aspects that are then perceived by the body. Knowing this, we may work backwards and uncover greater insight into the perceived expansion of the universe. From the fifth dimension, we see that the perceived size of any of the universe is directly related to the greatest inertial reference frame. From our perception, this could be considered the black hole in our galactic center, although greater orbits do exist that are unobservable. Our conscious system takes 25,920 years to orbit within the fifth dimension. Just like all orbits of creation, they are not perfectly circular. For example, as the Earth orbits the Sun, there is a moment when it is furthest from the Sun. This distance is called aphelion. There is also a moment in the orbit when the Earth is closest to the Sun. This moment is called perihelion. The same is true for the conscious system as it orbits the center of all moments. Half of our precessional cycle consists of drifting closer to the center, and half of it is related to drifting further away. Again, to emphasize, all these motions are secondary to the greatest vortex of all moments. Perception of matter and light are related to our inertial reference frame. As we drift closer to the center during perihelion, the universe would appear to be expanding. We are moving into a stronger gravitational field, which would cause the stretching and crunching of the raw fluid to be more dramatic. It is a denser realm. As we move away from conscious center towards aphelion, we would be undergoing less gravitational pull from the vortex. This implies that either the universe would appear to slow down in its expansion, or that it may appear to be contracting. It's as if our perception of the universe breathes as we drift in and drift out. For 12,960 years, we drift inward, and for 12,960 years, we drift outward. Currently, within our perception, we are drifting inward, and the universe appears to be expanding. The universe breathes as we orbit, expanding and contracting on regular time cycles. The stability of our existence relies on the regular nature of this breath, which creates a regular breath around the sun and a regular breath of our day, which translates to a regular breath of our body. The human breathes. How does this translate back to our body? On average, a human takes a breath once every 4 seconds. This translates to 15 breaths every minute, which then goes to 900 breaths an hour and ultimately 21,600 breaths in a day. The Earth can be broken into 360 degrees. Each degree can be broken into 60 minutes. In standard literature, 1 nautical mile is 1 minute of arc at the equator. The circumference of the Earth is 21,639 nautical miles. This means as the Earth rotates, every breath we take is related to 1 minute of arc, or 1 nautical mile. It's essentially 1 breath per mile of rotation. Let's now look at the human heart. A healthy person properly aligned with the natural conscious fields has a heartbeat of 60 times in a minute. This translates to 3,600 heartbeats in an hour, which goes to 86,400 heartbeats in a day. When relating this to conscious orbits, you could say that half the day we are moving towards denser realms and half the day we are moving towards less dense realms. This translates into 43,200 heartbeats for each half of the day. It is interesting to relate this to the number of conscious snapshots we take as we walk a mile, which is also 43,200. The difference between heartbeats and conscious snapshots is 60 times. For every breath, we have 4 heartbeats. For every heartbeat, we have 60 conscious snapshots. Let's now divide our 25,920-year precessional cycle by 60, and we get 432 years. We'll return to this. This number, 432, is the center of most musical instruments and is properly tuned to the human body. It is the middle A on a piano that is used to then tune the rest of the system. It harmonizes with the conscious snapshot, the human heartbeat, and the precessional cycle of our system. The sun and moon. Another interesting point which is also secondary to the conscious fields, is our perception of the sun and the moon. Both have the same apparent size in our sky. This is because the diameter of the body and distance are perfectly proportional. If you multiply the diameter of the sun by 108, you will derive the sun to Earth distance. You can do the same with the moon. The moon's diameter times 108 equals the distance from the Earth to the moon. This is not coincidence and is a secondary result to the already existing flows of space before the human body evolved. The conscious snapshot of Earth. Consider our breath of air in relationship to the greatest conscious center. We breathe once every 4 seconds. The heart beats once a second. Our consciousness takes a picture 60 times in that second. If we say that 25,920 years cycle is a breath, then by dividing by 4, we get the length of a heartbeat, which is 6,480 years. Then we divide that by 60 to get the conscious snapshot of time, which becomes 108 years. We could also say the precessional cycle relates to a heartbeat. If you divide 25,920 years by 60, you get 432 years per conscious snapshot. The primal vortex. All aspects of our experience are secondary to the primal vortex of creation. Matter, electromagnetism, and sound all emerge from this raw fluid, stretching and crunching perceptions into existence. Are the stars really light years away? What is space, what is time, and what is distance? Aren't they all secondary aspects to the already existing flows of consciousness? Isn't the space between atoms relatively the same as the space between galaxies? Are the stars not merely inches away within the fifth dimension of conscious density? Isn't it all a relative scenario? Let's now continue our conscious journey as we explore the nature of spirit, creation, and the primal vortex of time. Well, there you go. That was Body, the Mind Spaceship. And I guess just one takeaway, probably the most important takeaway is, so what is more important? Which is primary and which is secondary? Should we force natural conscious fields to align with our body, or should we try to somewhat align our body to the natural conscious fields? Either way, when the two aren't connected, it'll cause spirals of delusion. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end this video, but I'll be releasing Spirit, the Vortex of Creation soon. So if you found value in this, please like, share, and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.